is life here. So a little bit of a moment of respite if you are Na'Vi. You're not taken out just yet. Now, as a reminder, folks, Resurgence is closed. So anybody that is getting eliminated from here on out, sorry, you're not coming back on in. There is no timer. Unless you have a teammate that can magically hit a buy station, buy you back.
Yeah, by the way, zone pull is going to be absolutely massive here. It's dragging everyone off between Factory and Harbor. And guess which two teams are there? Two teams we've spoken so highly about when it comes to positioning. Na'Vi have tried to recover there, but we're going to see Twisted Minds taking a hold of it as well. So everyone now that you're currently seeing try and scramble from prison could well land themselves in front of this AG Global lineup, and it's going to get mixing.
Ooh, all right, AG Global. Dark is the last one alive, trying to make it happen. Finds one, finds two, but look who's still alive. Almond, he's around here somewhere. Top prison, it looks like, actually, trying to take a fight. So at least Dark, you're able to find the eliminations. This was the question mark for this team. Dark has to be the Slayer and really go huge. So the fact that he's able to find eliminations while also trying to crawl up the placements is really, really solid. Now, Enigma, here's the thing about this zone. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu. We saw this exact zone yesterday, right? Twisted Minds, they're sticking to their game plan. They have grabbed not one, but two of the only buildings in zone.
They have indeed, and they're on 11 kills already, so every bit of kill that they pick up from this point is going to be massive. Just trying to keep an eye on what Almond's trying to play here.
Nice.
Skullface just sitting and watching, and you can see from the face cam there, just trying to guide Almond as to where he goes, using the gondola to get himself across. And he's going to land onto BSL, who have tucked themselves away in a corner. Bagel, Liam having to back on off. They don't know that it's just Almond, so Almond will actually get the kill and potentially the loot, but then he is found and wiped from the board by Twisted Minds.
Twisted Minds, the positioning paying on off. No. They do get taken out. Fnatic is there. Twisted Minds still alive, but I'm looking at SGP Syndicate right now, because I'm looking at our scores, and they have an insane amount of eliminations. 23 so far. Still 6 teams left. Do we see somebody beat the Falcons score in game number 1?
Believe here has to just play placement for me. He's on the 5, just get himself into those multipliers. Remember, you got to get to that second, and he's just got AJ on the other side. The thermite, does it catch? No, it's just going to be floor damage. AJ will escape. For a second there, it looked like it actually stuck to him.
Yeah, I thought he did.
I like this play here. Just hunker down, let everyone else fight, and just try and mop up any remaining pieces.
On the outside, though, Twisted Minds. You got BSL kind of coming in, being a little bit annoying. BSL, a squad known for just being annoying to some of our top teams. Aiden gets a little bit stuck on the stairs there, flies on forward. Knight, though, will be able to secure it, and that is a squad wipe on BSL. They are taken out, but Twisted Minds in return get deleted. Believe goes down. I believe in third. I think they did it. Falcons here trying to be able to push Guild. Soka going to be able to do it. Team Falcons take game number 1.
Of course. Who else but the undeniable, indomitable Team Falcons to take our map 1 here on group stages day 2. Continuing with what was an impressive run throughout the back half of yesterday. All the questions are being answered. As usual here, we are so used to talking about this side. There's a reason why we're floating the Dynasty tag around. It doesn't happen often here in Warzone, but these 3 could well and truly seal their destiny after this Esports World Cup.
Brother, I mean, I want to give Falcons all the credit for being able to close that one on out, but brother, we got to talk about SGP Syndicate. Believe staying alive there to be able to get to that top 3 placement. They had an insane amount of eliminations, and they're able to take that multiplier and run with it. I can't wait to see where they are after that first map, but one thing that's scary to me, though, is Team Falcons winning a game number 1. We know this is a very momentum-based team. We talked about it sort of in the middle of that game, that it takes a little bit for them to heat up. I don't know if they need time to heat up today, man. It looks like they're coming out swinging.
Well, that's the scary thing, right? Because when it was AVB yesterday, and we've spoken about how AVB is the clash of the 2 biggest groups, they were struggling a little bit, right? Especially early on. I think that they were actually finding their route from Stronghold out towards Factory, contested by, of all teams, BSL. But it seemed that they've, gone away, assessed the VOD, and it looked like yesterday they figured that out as well, right? In Group B, so they have themselves that luxury, shall we say. Some people are struggling with it, but they seem to be prospering, where you've got 2 games, you can go away and assess and come back in for your next 2. They clearly learned a few things and then have come into today with some more knowledge.
Well, let's take a look at those final moments of that game. You can see Believe there on the bottom of that zone. I love this fly cam we have in the sky because it paints the perfect picture. You can see Believe, it's actually a C4 by the hands of Soka that brings him on down. And unfortunately, if you are King AJ from Guild, it's just not enough to stay alive. and you got all 3 members of the Falcons flying at you.
No, it's just never going to be enough when you've got those 3 boys coming around the corner, right? That's just not what you want to see. But you do pick up second if you're killed. You got to be pretty happy with that. But let's go back to Believe there, Singapore Syndicate, and what he managed to pull off. Because I think that they were in line for like the 1.2 times multiplier by the time his 2 teammates drop on out. And they manages to see his squad all the way through to 3rd. So picking up a couple of extra points along the way, as we well know here in Warzone, every single one of those will matter when we get to our end stages.
And I feel like the thing to note there is that even if you don't hit multiplier, the 20 points there is still feeling insane. So I know we got some amazing people on the desk ready to break all of that down. So we're going to kick it back to our studio to give you all of the information.
All right, thank you, Dandro. Enigma, that's game number 1. Don, A, and B just competed against each other, and it was absolutely brutal. Team Falcons take the win. They were already in first, but I guess they're going to be a bit greedy today. They want more.
I mean, they show up when it matters, day 3, and they get the first win. Yesterday, it took them a couple games to get it going, but they get the massive one, and they actually changed things up heading in towards today. Yesterday, they were having some trouble against BSL. Today, they switch up their rotation. They move into control center. They don't have to worry about BSL. They just all eyes forward into any team that they can punish realistically, and it leads them into the comfort zone of playing towards that circle, in towards the end game. If they have all 3 members in the end game, I'd say 9 times out of the 10 they win.
I want to talk a little bit more about those rotations when we come back. We did have a chance this morning to talk to the Falcons. Let's send it over to them and hear what they had to say.
What's up, everybody? We're outside the STC arena, and as you can see, the Falcons just arrived. Before you take the stage, I want to hit you up with a few questions. Can we start with you? Hisoka, what is going on this tournament? How did you guys lock up the #1 spot after day 1 of group stages?
I mean, after day 1 of group stages, we knew we kind of played bad the first half, the first 2 games. So then when we went back to the drawing board, figured out what we did wrong, and then we fixed it, and we had a banger game, and we ended up in first.
Speaking of bangers, I see the headphones on. What are we listening to? What gets you in the zone?
Nipsey Hussle, baby, always.
Always Nipsey Hussle. Let's take it over this way to the lead slayers. We got Biffle, we got Shifting. I want to start with you, Big Biff. How do we feel about day 1, and how do you keep that energy coming in here to day 3?
I think a lot of the energy is going to be coming from the crowd because we're sitting right in front of them. So, you know, I know Shifty gets them riled up. So, you know, I'm sure the crowd will get us going. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for another domination, day.
Talk to me about this crowd, Shifty, because they love you, man. Everyone is cheering on Falcons. It's the only thing you hear when you guys are on the main stage. How did you get the support, and what are you doing to keep them so energized?
I mean, I just love it. I'm feeding off of them. They're always just chanting our names, and I just get up and I just start crowd working. I mean, to be at an event like this, honestly, the first time I think Warzone's ever had like a home crowd like this, and we just so happen to be the home team. I'm making the most out of it. It's just very fun, and I'm just enjoying the moment.
All right, I do have to ask you guys, since you're at the top of the leaderboard, you seem to be safe. Even if you bomb out of your 4 games today, a lot of people are saying they could probably still get in. But other teams are in a much tougher position. Hisoka, I want to come to you on this one. Who do you expect to move up or down the leaderboard? Because we had teams like Izon winning some big games. We had a big shocker with Game of Gladiators all the way at the bottom of the leaderboard after day 1. What do you see happening here in the second day of groups?
I think the team's name's AG, maybe, Deucemir in them, and the Adams. I think they're going to move down. They keep trying to hold us like they do. Well, we're going to give them hell, so.
Amir, stop dropping on this man, and maybe you can climb that leaderboard. I know he's got a ton of fans, and so do you guys. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us out front.
All right, thank you, Puckett, for that interview. Great to hear from the Falcons, and good to see them flying high today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, loving the crowd energy. And I mean, Hisoka saying that they had a bad day 1, but coming in when it matters. Oh, slays all around. But the positioning, the adjustments, and the plays, guys, I mean, that was perfect for them.
Perfect indeed. As we take a look at our highlights, Seymour, I go back to you discussing the changes that they had to make to hit that home a little bit harder, because I at least from my perspective, I noticed the first 2 games they played yesterday, Seymour, they were landing in Stronghold, they were rotating up through tents, and then eventually going over towards Factory. You mentioned they were going against BSL consistently, and they consistently were getting top 8, they get a win, then top 7. They had to change something, because even though they get a win with a 50-point game, something still needed to be changed.
Yeah, and you saw a change right there. It seems like BSL or the Falcons' kryptonite, and what way does Superman get away from kryptonite? It's just keeping as far away from it as he possibly can.
That's it, yeah.
So they changed their rotation fully, and it pays off immediately with a game win. That should shoot them even further up that first place spot. It should basically determined they're going to be in our next day. They're going to be in that playoffs as well. But I mean, we got to talk about other teams, and I think Dongi is a big discussion that we need to talk about because yesterday he was getting the 11 kills in game number 1. He starts off today with another big game for SGP. I think that's exactly what SGP needed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how many clutch plays did Believe have, right? He was roaming around Chemical, kind of doing his thing, but he was playing Disruptor, and I believe at one point did actually take Biffle down, but for Intex and Believe playing like safety while Dongi just kind of was going off, I mean, that was, I think Dandro called it out. It was like at one point 23 eliminations, probably the highest, but you had mentioned they have one more game. This is a spot that was solidified for SGP.
SGP looking great in game number 1 already. And also a team that was looking even better was Fnatic, a team that could very well qualify as it currently sits, Dream.
Yeah, no, I was going to say Z-Dark, right? That was mentioned from Hisoka, like they're going to move down, but Z-Dark, right? He was positioned, I believe it was on Grandma's, right? He took down 2 members of Fnatic, but how smart was it of Allman to stay alive as long as he did, at least picking up 1 elimination and moving up in the placements?
Yeah, Allman, he loves that tower. He goes up top, he snipes it out, and then he went eventually to top prison. He made it happen, and ultimately had to rotate off because of the gas, but that's just the way it goes. Still secured a phenomenal game. Well, that's game number 1. Let's head into game number 2. Get the casters going, because I'm ready to start and see how A and B is going to finish.
Well, Taylor, I'm right there with you. We have one more game of Group A versus Group B, and boy, if that was the way we kicked off the first match, I cannot wait to see how does the second match end on. Now, overall rankings here at Enigma, let's take a look at this leaderboard. What is jumping off the page to you?
I think it's got to be SGP Syndicate making that massive jump from 8th into 3rd, taking themselves away from that bubble conversation, away from being worried about how the rest of this afternoon plays out, and putting your destiny well and truly in your own hands here, almost solidifying their own qualification. We are guesstimating that 100 points will be enough to get you through to tomorrow, and they have now crossed that threshold. But let's get ourselves locked in then. Final game of AVB here for Map 2 Esports World Cup Call of Duty Warzone, baby. And we are already off to a flyer.
I just know the STC arena is absolutely buzzing with energy right now. Not only because of that Team Falcons win, because this is some of the best Call of Duty Warzone we've seen in a minute. Map number 2, Group A versus Group B. We are feeling good almost through our first start of the day. Yesterday started off a little bit slow. Not the case here today. So let's see, where are some of our squads going to be dropping right out of the plane? What contests do we see? As I'm looking at a couple of these squads, they're sticking to their game plan from map number 1.
They are a lot of them, and honestly, I'm a little bit concerned about that for Amir and Co. We'll come back to that later because Juki's going to be contested yet again by Vitality here over by Bioweapons. And actually, both teams have sent just 2 players here, potentially trying to avoid entire team squad wipes, as we saw happen yesterday. Tatsuka's just going to hold this middle room. This was the top Slayer in solos, a player who I spoke to in the elevator, actually in the hotel, and he said Resurgence doesn't suit us. A lot of teams looking at these guys no longer as an underdog, but more of like a dark horse contender. But apparently, they're just not finding their feet here just yet.
BSL, we saw them take this fight at sort of the end game of that last time, and well, they are here now at the beginning of the game as Bagel flies forward, Sidewinder in hand, takes down Aiden. BSL causing some trouble, being a thorn in the side for Twisted Minds yet again.
Liam will finish off Gorgo and will get himself some loot to spare. So 2v1, potentially 3v1 situations. Twisted Minds try and recover. Whether or not they send that yet again. Jukis gets bullets in the back, and we'll have just a moment to plate. And look who's arriving. It's the new Icons looking to try and essentially third party this situation. Juki's stuck between a rock and a hard place as Enxian and Patsuka squeeze him and apply the finishing move. New Icons trying to make it mix in. They're not the only teams. The Singapore Syndicate are arriving in numbers.
Oh, this is not what you like to see. 3-party, 4th party. Let's see what happens. Drake trying to be able to hit the slide cancel, but it's a little bit hard when it's a 2v1, but look who's from behind. It's Lukinas, who's able to kind of make some trades going on in. So a flurry of eliminations happening here at Bioweapons as Enxian seems to be the only player from Vitality still alive, but it's hard to survive when you got the double chow of Believe and his friend.
I gotta say, the way they've played that out is beautiful. Believe and Dongi essentially go off by themselves, push this, trying to essentially third party this entire building, whereas Intex, he's anchored off towards Chem. He's stayed out of the fight just in case his 2 boys lose it, and of course they don't because they are absolutely cooking this afternoon.
I actually really like that Intex is staying over there at Chemical for one reason alone. If they do lose that fight at Bioweapons and they have to regain, Chemical has just so much loot available to it that you can kind of land back on in. They can kind of feel good about their weapons, and if they want to push back on over to Bio and maybe take another third party, maybe actually get some revenge, they possibly could. So I love that they're able to do that, but I love that we see this in the SEC arena. The zone is shrinking now. Players, they got to start to move as the zone kind of pulls a little bit towards that southwest.
It does indeed, and that mean everyone that was fighting over by Bio and Chem got a bit of a rotation on their hands, and Destroy here themselves trying to hit their own rotation up through headquarters. Got to consider though, there's a lot of rooftops around it. You're also kind of exposed, and Destroy has company here. You're going to have Fnatic pushing on up. Clash between two Titans, you feel, but Destroy actually just going to check on out, regroup with his teammate here, try and set up some sort of crossfire. Skullface and Noob lying just across the road.
Yeah, trying to look over there towards that grandma's house, a little bit up here towards what I like to call grandpa's, because, well, they're right next to each other, so that's A-okay.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's a little bit, you know? So they're trying to just go ahead and hold on here. A little bit of a breathing moment, it feels like, here in the map as the kill feed lights on up as I say that. As they go on through. Noobs, Fnatic, Almond and Skullface, teammates nearby already. They're just kind of maybe trying to grab a little bit of a hold. Currently sitting on 4 eliminations already, though. Falcons currently sitting on the boat, as we've seen them do outside of Factory, moving on in. Could potentially run into BSL here, though.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is one of the kryptonite factors that they were facing yesterday. Seymour just called out down on the desk, and it definitely wouldn't have been something that we would have expected, but this playstyle that they have, Soka sits in Stronghold, Shifty and Biff will go off on their merry way, and they were actually running straight through AG Global, continuing to do that this afternoon with BSL with a trouble, but doesn't seem like they're having that problem today after winning map 1, but Doggy here, a lot of company in industry, and we'll find Tommy and Alula here. Got off to a solid start over by Bio, but not going to be enough as Doggy snaps. Doggy spins, Doggy shuts down Lennon, and continuing his impressive map 1 performance, and also going to go back and pick up his teammate Intex.
Hey, I don't know if we got any first responders or medical people here in the building, but you might want to go give Lennon some ankle tape, because his ankles do not exist anymore. They are deleted. That clip alone probably shows why Dongi went huge in that last map.
Vitality, by the way, looking to third party this, looking to essentially squeeze, but it's going to be far too late. You're going to have your Singapore Syndicate set up and able to push on out. Stuo gets backed on down towards the beaches. So Enxi and Patsuka are trying to push this themselves, and we saw last time they just didn't work out for them, so we've got to be very careful about how they approach this. Moving back on towards Guild, they did a good job around Prison last time, looking to repeat that here in map 2.
Love that they're able to do that. They made it towards the end. We saw King AJ try and win that last final fight. It just wasn't enough, though. They had a great map yesterday. Looking to do the same here today. We see King AJ getting a little bit aggressive. We'll answer back on to this Team Vitality. This Team Vitality is an enigma. They haven't been able to really find it this game.
No, it's just not been a strong start, and they were sat in 12th coming into this afternoon. Their kills were actually pretty good, averaging 10.5 across the afternoon. However, an average placing of 8th. So they're just not getting themselves through to those late stages. When you're getting put in a blender like that by Guild, you can see exactly why. And speaking of which, Guild here on your screen, and no surprise that Prison is going to be hotly contested. One of the teams that has moved into this area, Danjo, the SGP Syndicate, and we know what they've been doing.
Yeah, SGP Syndicate. Now, the one thing I hope, I just don't want them to overheat a little bit. It's easy to kind of get in your own head to try and maybe think that you're the kings of the lobby. Nobody can stop you. Next thing you know, you're kind of getting slammed, and it's not very fun. So Vitality a little bit on the regain here towards that ammo stash house that I called. As you can see, Enxian and Patsuka starting to make their way up towards that prison. One thing to note here, we got Twisted Minds. They've kind of laid home to the Factory. They're holding on in as they, I believe, your kill leaders so far this lobby on 8.
Yeah, indeed. Singapore Syndicate sit on 7, Falcons on 8.
Oh, Dios.
Ryzen here needs to make something happen. He has to himself, finds the third, but Rodrigo falls in the background, so he's going to try and provide coverage. Matty here trying to hit the red. We'll get it on through, which will get the just reset. Put a surprise story on our screen here of yesterday, but
la BP 50.
in the way of positive news. And we get a flick on over. We find Fnatic. We talked about how impressive they looked yesterday. And you've got one player providing coverage from the lighthouse. You've also got players going towards top prison, and Skullface finds Liam.
I think Skull's looking to get a little aggro. Yeah, you find the down. You want to be able to get that cleanup. Immediately turns his sight towards Factory. Knights on top. Has to scurry away a little bit, Skull. Staying a little bit patient here, saying, you want to check this again? You want to throw me a shoulder here, bud? I'll make sure you don't make that happen. Love the beauty of the there. What everybody is competing for. We're looking for our top 14 teams to make it to finals to have their chance to hoist that themselves.
There we are Indeed. 4 teams out here by Circle 3. Those 4 teams being Al Ula, one of the bubble squads that we're talking about. The Gaming Gladiators that continue to struggle. The Singapore Syndicate that had a great game last time out, but fall here. And then the new Icons, again, another little bit of a surprise yesterday, but slow start here on day 2. And those sides will sit and watch on as we see Guild here get pushed up close and actually take a stun, and the stun actually connects with everybody. Stallface escapes as such. Wars is here to reach out. AJ and Vision to try and push on up.
Noobs, though, on the outside. You see kind of a little bit of a battle here with StuKX. The smoke goes down, hits some shots through it. We'll be able to find StuKX. Noobs doing a great job of playing a little of the old bait and switch, as I like to call it. The smoke coming on out, thinking that he's just trying to be able to play for some cover, not expecting bullets to come on through, but look at this King AJ laying in wait, trying to be able to sneak their way, maybe potentially onto the roof. Guild making a similar play like we saw from them yesterday.
No, indeed. The one problem is you've got Almond Tower watching on over, so you've got to be careful about how you push that one out. Na'Vi, the squad that I said we should be watching out for, are pushing their way through
Before
the
the
living
Shifty
quarters
están allá en la
region. They've actually
puñeta.
got company in Team Destroy. You might well have company as well from Team Falcon, so all of a sudden you're trapped between a rock and a hard place because Destroy's going to return some fire. Actually, I agree with this play. Get out, regroup with your teammate. You've got Raul available to you, and Nate Dogg still has 10 seconds of resurgence time.
Yeah, I like this. Kind of Destroy. They make a little bit of a heat check, and they say, we don't want to commit to this. We don't have to spend our time trying to take this fight. Let's go ahead. Let's back on up to this building, sort of regroup as a team, figure out what we want to do. We can see Bagel does get taken out by the Twisted Minds, and, well, Na'Vi for now. They got control of this big building, but the Falcons are lurking. They are on the hunt.
That is a terrifying phrase for absolutely anybody, and you got to think that after coming out on top yesterday and then absolutely smashing through map 1, that leash that they might have been on from Soka trying to anchor might have been lengthened just a little bit. And have your fun boys, we're through to tomorrow. That's what matters. Biffle here looking to play through control center. There's actually going to be no one relatively nearby, so that gives you a moment to loot up, ensure you have everything you need to consider endgame.
Yeah, they basically have this entire outside of zone on the sort of northwest side of the map completely to themselves, all right? So we have a couple of teams, though, that are starting to make their way into zone. A lot of buildings that you can hold on through here. Team Destroy kind of trying to grab a couple of these houses. We have Na'Vi grabbing the main big one. BSL looks like they've laid it in the water. They're trying to make some sort of regain. Twisted Minds, though, they've opted towards that factory side to try and hold out some of these people, maybe having to come down from headquarters.
Rotations that is going to be very difficult here with Twisted Minds being set up. It's going to be over from that living quarters, and we know that we have Team Destroy over there. We also know that we have Na'Vi. Twisted Minds just try and keep an eye on things. Then again, apologies, next circle could actually squeeze up. So Twisted Minds trying to edge their bets a bit by just sitting one side and hoping it pulls towards them. We saw that same kind of look for Na'Vi yesterday, and actually on the other side of the circle. So if luck repeats itself, then they will have their own rotation. Top tower, looking on over. It feels like you've got an ant's nest just below you, but when do you strike? When do you kick it and send everyone sprawling?
Yeah, I love that they're kind of sitting up here. It feels like Falcons potentially could maybe make a really easy third party between Guild and Vitality if that does break on out. Vitality just kind of hanging on out here, waiting for Guild to kind of throw the shoulder, peek there, head on out. Maybe you get a good angle, but a little bit of just wait right now. But look at this Team Falcons. They made their way to the top of this building. They're looking to get a little aggressive here, Enigma, as this is going to be an absolute bloodbath if we see this break on out.
It is. And the thing is as well, the Falcons aren't even in zone yet.
Shifty,
He's on 7. He's tearing through anything that steps out in front of him. You got to assume that you can hear that Guild lineup just beneath you. And look who's arriving there. Vitality just going to be scurrying underneath, and Shifty actually spots one, gets the crack, but not the finish. The stun will connect. Covering stun, whoever that was, just saved their teammate's life. And Shifty and Co trying to escape here, but will take bullets in the back, and the circle, is squeezing. You've only got moments here, and you've got to assess your situation and fly.
Yeah, I really want to see what the Falcons are going to do here. You're playing in the zone. You're taking a lot of damage right now. Gas mask only for Biffle and Soka right now. So Shifty will start taking a little bit of that as they're able to hold on to the side. Guild also kind of playing a similar situation here, knowing that maybe they can bring down the Falcons. I'm worried, though, Enigma, if either of these teams need to make it on down, you have a lot of squads that are looking up at you.
You do. Falcons buy themselves some time with the PDS plays, but the problem you have is at some point you've got to move, and if any team is set up and waiting for you to arrive, you're just going to be a sitting duck. And Twisted Minds again, set up in good positions. There is another PDS coming out of the Falcons. And actually, zones will fall slightly more favorable, but they've just got to continue to buy time for now. Yet another PDS. C4 goes out. We've lost Shifty. Soka and Biffle will have to do it by themselves if they're going to repeat, and Soka's looking to push.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we were kind of worried about, was that Guild was going to try and hold them on through, but it kind of looks like a little bit of a third party from Na'Vi. They're going to go ahead and wipe that team off of the map. This is, I don't know, this is just feeling awkward. I mean, I'm looking at our mini-map over here. Team Falcons, they are literally still on the other side of headquarters trying to get the buy off.
Must have been running about 19 PDSs to make this work, I'll be completely honest. There was a couple of comments on the timeline yesterday, and Shifty comes back in and lands directly on top of Twisted Minds. Knight's making a lot of noise, but might not be aware that Shifty's slightly above him. Got to be careful, because you've also got players arriving from Na'Vi. You're going to have Destroy just sacking on the edge here, just hoping to pick things up. Aiden's going to get pushed. Aiden takes plenty of damage from the PA, and as the PA rings back out again, there's just enough coverage, but Levi finds Shifty.
Destroy looking to move their way on in. Bunker Buster dealing some insane damage. Soka just trying to play his life. Snakes are in. The form looks good. You see Knight down below. Soka will go ahead, clean that up. Levi taken on out. He is just absolutely reaping the rest of this lobby. Yet again, back to back. Yeah, give them the praise. Give them the hype. They are here. I think they ended that game on 15, 16. I'm seeing 15, baby. 30-point game, back-to-back dubs. We were questioning how many games are going to take for them to heat up. Yeah, it's going to take 0.
I mean, this is just ridiculous at this point. It does not matter what format, what map, what mode, we just see these boys fly. Falcons on top here for the first 2 games of the day. But there were so many questions after the first 2 yesterday, whether or not they could fly, whether or not they could make things happen, and it turns out that they have absolutely no troubles today. I thought they were going to be in so much trouble at one point there, but the PDS plays come on out, they make the rotation happen and just let everyone else scramble around fights while they needed to find their form, and they executed that brilliantly.
You know, I was talking to a couple of the other talent from some of the other games, and they were like, when... You know, the Team Falcons, they kind of started yesterday a little bit slow. They're like, oh, they weren't doing that good. And I was like, yeah, well, they had their one-banger game, and that's what matters. When you look at these 2 first games, though, it is hard to not feel the dominance starting to emerge. They are good for those first 2 games, and they still got 2 more to play. So here's my question to you, Enigma. Do they continue the dominance? Do they take all 4 games of their groups?
It's a tale as old as time. It is terrifying once they start to hit this kind of form. Like, even when they had those games yesterday, even in everything that happened in solos, you and me were kind of looking at each other and going, yeah, but how many times have we said this over the last year, right? The thing is, this was a ridiculous team way before they brought in Soka instead of Sage. And look at the positioning here, just over the top. They've used those PDS plays to buy themselves so long to then take high ground and just watch out on over and essentially 3rd, 4th, 5th party that entire situation. It's just clinical brilliance yet again from our Falcons.
Well, and I think the thing we need to talk about, right, is sort of that skirmish with Guild. I actually think it's basically Na'Vi kind of basically hands that to Falcons on a silver platter, since Guild, they were positioned great to kind of take this fight against the Falcons, but it looks like it was Limax just finding 1 or 2 of those, and Falcons basically found a couple players down on the ground, and they're like, oh, okay, we got this for free? Sick. I love this. I love being given position and height in the game for just absolutely 0 cost, 0 opportunity. But that is also off the back at that insane gas wrap to be able to get the buyback on Shifty.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. They bring in those PDS plays. They wrap themselves back towards that gas station. And we keep saying it's like their signature play. They do it all the time. But every time they do, it's just outrageous where they execute them with no issues whatsoever and continue to see things through.
Well, I know someone who's going to be very happy, and that is Dream Crazy, as Falcons were her pick to win the event. They're looking good. Let's send it back to the analysts to see what they have to say.
All right, thank you, Dandro. Enigma, yeah, Dream, come on, the Falcons, right? I mean, look, a team that came in and is now dominating 2 games in a row, and to my knowledge, the only team to win 2 games in a row so far.
Yeah, you know, Goach is probably streaming too, but come on now. I mean, like, when that confidence, that momentum keeps going for them, that's crazy. But for the longest time, you guys, let's talk about Guild. Guild looked like the team to play spoiler alert, and we thought, oh man, this is like that they might be done, right?
Yeah.
But staying alive so long, those PDS plays, and then of course Na'Vi, right? They literally played Disruptor.
A lot of teams to talk about, Infinity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just a lot. I think, you know, Guild got involved in a lot of fights there. There were a couple of key engagements. I think we're going to get talking depth about one in just a second here between Falcons and Guild, in which Guild played incredibly smart. Guys, I'm going to be honest, that might be a telestrator moment for later on down the line.
Okay.
But also, it's worth saying that Guild, they actually managed to get control of Prison this time around throughout the mid-game, right? Generally speaking, you expect Fnatic to be able to do that.
Right.
Guild were the team to do so. They pushed Fnatic into an uncomfortable position, getting control of the map. I think Guild are a lot more comfortable today than they were yesterday.
Yeah, Fnatic getting pushed off of Prison was quite a shock. That's almost, I think, the second time. The first time was Almond actually getting pushed off, but that was by Gas, not necessarily a team. Guild, though, push them off. Fnatic, though, still in a very healthy spot, you'd have to say. But let's talk about one of those key moments, right? And that's SGP versus Na'Vi. Seymour, what was going on?
Yeah, it was back in game number 1. SGP and Na'Vi were going head-to-head for a very long time. And yesterday we saw in the standings that they were side by side. I'm pretty sure it was the 7th and 8th place. So the two of them going at it today has big implications for, you know, how this day is going to pay out, especially for Group A that doesn't have a lot of time. You see SGP swinging in, Na'Vi knowing they're in trouble, especially considering how ruthless Dongy has been in those couple of games. You're trying to get away, but with SGP breathing down your neck, eventually they go down and they die. And it's just something to say, with SGP turning up the way they are, Na'Vi has to be careful to not fall down the list, especially with only 2 more games left. You see it out of Twisted Minds yesterday. You don't want that out of 2 teams who are performing exceptionally.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Dongy, man. Like, you guys saw how he was taking out Alula, like
Yes.
how slaying out.
Hey,
He took out some heavy hitters, but I mean, single-handedly, the movement, the dong, the dong king, the dong,
The Baba Yaga.
yeah,
Ding
like.
dong, you know?
No, that's a different
I'm sorry.
But we have to count the fact too, you guys. Group A, right? They have to play again. Group
Right.
B gets that break.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
for A, the pressure is on because
Well,
this is it.
so pressure's on. So who is the pressure on? The first one that comes to mind for me, Infinity, is Alula.
Yes,
Alula has
yes.
been struggling. Juki's a man that not only needs to make it through the World Series of Warzone, he still needs to go through LCQ with FIFA and his crew. Now you see them struggling, potentially not even making it through into finals tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I said that yesterday, right? It seems like they kind of figured things out by the end of the day. Of course, they did walk away with that game number 4 victory. But today, I think right from the rip, from last game, where they didn't feel comfortable hitting Bio right off the rip, they lost those opening engagements to New Icons and Vitality. And here in game number 2, they're like, look, this is not working for us. We can't keep hitting Bio, so we're going to change things up a little bit and move our drop towards somewhere else on the map. And then, of course, we see the effect of that, right? Because Dongy is able to take them out and make them have to research again. But still, I mean, that is a big decision to make. That is a huge decision at this point during the game. You've only got 3 games left, including the one that we just saw. To change your drop now is a massive decision to make for Alula.
It's a big decision to make. It's not easy to change things up, Dream. As a competitor, you get used to where you're at. You want to alpha your location, but if you're not alpha in your location, the only sensible option is to change things up.
Oh yeah, and I mean for Stiwo, Nxian, and Patsuka, like they seem to always be there at Bio, just completely disrupting them. And I mean, we saw for some of the other teams, like we switched our strategies, but it didn't work out for them. So for some it did, for some it didn't.
Right.
But you have to think as a competitor, you got to be comfortable, you have to be feeling yourself, because when you're awkward in those positions and those rotations, it's just chaos.
That's right. There's no time to be awkward, is there, whenever you're playing? As we look at our highlights, we're going to come up to a moment that I want to discuss, the final moments for Falcons and their brilliant play to rotate into zone. Obviously, Prison, though, is a consistent talking point, Seymour.
Yeah, Prison's a huge talking point, especially considering Fnatic hasn't been as much on the ball with holding Prison as they were yesterday. You know, Brody, you were talking about it. Guild is pushing them off. It kind of opens up that real estate for other teams to kind of pick it up. And with Guild having that ability to kind of rotate in late, you thought for a second it actually may have punished Falcons heading in towards it, but they had a saving grace.
Yeah, Falcons, of course, well, I mean, I'm assuming we'll talk about the PDS play here and just to say it has to appear. If it doesn't appear, we're not doing something right. Here's that Dongy play, though, you were talking about. We love it. I'm going to kind of reframe this as King Dong now. I'm going for it. I don't care.
Come on, man.
I got to do it. I'm sorry, buddy. Dongy is just on an absolute tear, but Falcons towards the end of the game. I mean, Ellen, I can't wait to get to the play because it was just so incredibly smart.
I mean, yeah, we talk about how we'll talk about how like those shifty plays, those gas plays, how important and how clutch he comes out. But like that was insane. The buyback on Shifty, he's so gutsy, saving the bunker buster, saving the streaks. You guys, resources. That is important late game for some of these players. You have to save your resources.
You definitely do. This was a big play, the wars and them going off, and then of course Fnatic trying to regain control of the prison. Levi now in this moment was really, really tough and a hard spot to be in, and then Raul as well as Team Destroy up there at the top, and I believe second place if I'm not mistaken, Infinity.
Yeah, I mean, that final circle was absolutely manic. I think we're actually going to get to see it here right now. Yeah, you can see Na'Vi right involved in that conversation, and Falcons, the reason they're able to win this entire thing is the high ground.
Yeah, and with Na'Vi being in there too, it kind of saves them, like I was saying, against that SGP, a big thing to buff them up where they're not too worried about that Group A finish. big wins from multiple teams, and yeah, people getting loud on stage. They're like, all right, we've been kind of talking a little bit about Falcons and how they haven't been having a good couple of days, but back-to-back wins, they're right back on track.
You know what? That was the biggest thing that they said yesterday. They have something like, okay, maybe starting off, it was a little bit nerves, you know, especially on that solos day, but they have something to play for. They have a fan base. They have a community. They're not just
100%.
playing for themselves anymore. And Shifty said, just one more would be, like, he would be satisfied.
Yep.
One more.
One more. Is it
Championship.
By the way, is it Biffle who's trying to overtake Tommy? Is he one in the conversation?
One
Yes,
of them.
he's
I
second.
think he's got to be, right?
He's
Both
one of them,
Second earner.
to overtake Tommy, which
Yes.
I think would be a big deal. Now, we talked a lot about SGP. That Na'Vi battle that Seymour broke down was incredible. We actually had a chance to talk to SGP after this game. Let's hear what they had to say.
It's Puckett on the stage after the second drop, and I've got SGP. Now, Dongy, we got to start with you because you were on the mainstream almost the entirety of that first drop, but you had Believe with you most of the way. What's working right now with this duo dynamic? Because these aren't your regular teammates.
Honestly, we're just running at everything. Everybody's like really scared to chow or do anything. So whenever we have a lot of UEs up and we have a lot of info, we see solos, duos, we pick them apart. If I'm not getting the kills, Believe us, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're not too worried about who's getting the kills as long as we're getting them in total. So it's the team dynamic, you know, and our team dynamic's working. We're not getting blooded a lot. We're getting a lot of kills, and it's working out for us.
I love the nickname one of the analysts gave you guys in the green room. They said you two are playing like the Bash Brothers, and you are playing as the core, the anchor of this team. Believe, we haven't really shown your screen enough today, but you are also putting in work. Talk to me about what you're bringing to the table. Are you calling out the players? Is Dongy calling out the players? Are you just both seeing somebody and sprinting at them?
If we see someone, we're sprinting at them, but usually like we'll have a UAV up, but we'll get info, and then we're just trading each other out. Like if we get knocked, then we're picking each other back up, and we're just flying at everything. It's working out.
Intex, I know there was a lot of questions. Who was going to be your third when Mutex couldn't make it? You've got Dongy. He seems to be a fantastic fit. Are you guys working around his play style, or is he fitting into what you guys do naturally?
He's definitely fitting into what we do naturally. Usually, you know, they're just running around together. I'm the anchor, so I'm just reeling them back in. They're getting the kills. I don't got to do much. I'm just chilling. Like, go for it, you know? Like, that's it.
Coming into the day, what was your rank, and where do you think you're at right now?
I think we're in 8th when we came into today, but I think we're probably top 5 right now.
I think so, too. The scores are still unofficial, but these guys are moving up the leaderboard. Keep your eyes on SGP going into the finals tomorrow.
I agree with that, Bucket. Keep your eyes on SGP. They're looking to make the finals tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, the Baba Yaga of SGP, he looks like he's just ready to tear. This guy is an animal, and, you know, he may not have been the first choice, the second choice, but he was the right choice for this team, and now really turning things up to 10 for SGP, really making a statement in the start of today.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried about SGP, especially considering, you know, yesterday, Dongy had that 11-kill game back in game number 1, and then after that, he kind of trailed.
Cuando Mario necesita dar lo mejor de sí mismo, necesita protección que le dé más. Presentamos Dove Men 72 horas de protección con un cuarto de crema humectante.
Diablo, un ad de 2 minutos, vete para el carajo. Claro.
Foundation and Crawl Space Repair, the Nasty Crawl Space Company. Do you have a wet or damp basement? We'll transform your wet basement into a dry, healthy,